Golden Black Radio is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store. Shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Lafayette location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Welcome in to another edition of Gold and Black Radio, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm your host, Derek Schultz. Purdue had some positives on Saturday, but the negatives were too much to overcome, as crushing mistakes at critical times really cost them from truly competing for the win in a 43-27 defeat by rival Illinois. Boilers have now lost 3 straight, albeit all 3 to ranked opponents. And while they won't get a ranked team coming up this week, they do have a tough trip looming in taking on the Golden Gophers of Minnesota in Minneapolis. We'll look back and look ahead with Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison in just a few minutes. But first, a thank you to our terrific Golden Black sponsors that make the show possible, including Purdue Federal Credit Union, a proud partner of Purdue Athletics and the official credit card for Purdue fans. Boiler Up, East End Grill and Ripple & Company, 2 distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street, the perfect place for your next event. The Whitaker Inn, this Midwestern oasis, is perfect for relaxing staycation or weekend getaway. Escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn. Sand Valley Resort. Are you ready for a winter getaway? Discover the stillness and beauty of Sand Valley. Our stunning 12,000-acre landscape is the perfect place to explore, whether you're cross-country skiing, enjoying a quiet walk, or just relaxing by the fire. With thoughtfully designed accommodations and nourishing dining, Sand Valley is the place to reconnect with yourself and those you love. Find your winter retreat at sandvalley.com. And finally, the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research. The Purdue Institute for Cancer Research has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Purdue brings together world-class Boilermaker scientists from across the university, conducting cutting-edge research that uncovers new ways to prevent, diagnose, and treat cancer. With your support, cancer research saves lives. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. GoldandBlack.com football writers Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison join us now on this Tuesday edition of GBR. Tom, I thought in a lot of ways Saturday's game, outside of the lightning delay, was pretty reminiscent of the USC game. It just, every time, it felt like Purdue might have, sort of, kind of had a chance of getting back in the game. They had a turnover or a coverage break, and you just can't do that. I don't think you can do that against Rutgers and Northwestern, much less do that against a ranked Illinois team and get away with it.
Yeah, a lot of times Purdue beat Purdue, it seemed like, on Saturday, Derek. You referred to the turnover there. The early fumble by the receiver, Michael Jackson, was a turnover Barry Odom talked about on Monday in his press conference. They were going down there with a chance, I think, to go up 14-3 early.
Yeah.
Of course, they get the fumble. They lose the fumble, and the rest is history. A team like Illinois, you can't do that against, Derek. And I'll tell you what really surprised me were the 8 penalties. This has been a team that, for the most part, have been pretty disciplined, played smart football, didn't beat itself, right? And it's just some really silly penalties. Just exasperated the Purdue's chances to get victory Saturday as well. And the breakdowns on defense, right? Barry Odom talked about that today. Again, I asked him. We all saw what we saw. He hasn't changed his tune from Saturday, and it was a very harsh tune. He was very, very frank, a lot of candor. Didn't mince words. He called it awful, disappointing, and frustrating. And can't happen. I think Mike Shear, the DC, said there were 8 plays they allowed over for a total of 300 yards. 8 plays that account for 300 yards. Big plays all over that field, Derek. Just killed Purdue.
Yeah, God, I mean, that second quarter, Dub, was just an abject disaster. Illinois scores 27 points, and they just had guys running wide open. I mean, the play where they're in the shadow of their own end zone, and Altmaier, I forget who the receiver was, hits him for a 50-yard pass. If he puts that on the money, and Altmaier had a great day, if he puts that one on the money, that's 94 yards going the other way. Like he was running all the way by himself. And to see Odom's reaction like this, look, you guys know, he's only been here for a couple of months, but I think we all know enough to know he doesn't sugarcoat things. So even when things are good, when things are bad, he doesn't sugarcoat them at all. But do you think this raw reaction, was this a little bit different than what you have seen before from him? And does it reveal that he feels like maybe they're behind where they should be right now?
It's definitely different from what we've seen. I think going back to, his very first press conference throughout spring ball, and the fall camp, and even the first 4 weeks of the season, he's always stayed pretty even keel, in highs or lows. And this was kind of a different side of him that we saw on Saturday. after the game, and coming off the field, he didn't really mince his words either. So I think he realizes that things need to change and things need to change fast, which that's not news to anybody. Anyone watching this team understands that. But I think he's so used to having success right out of the gate. Going back to his time at UNLV, getting 8 and 10 wins, excuse me, the last couple of years. This is where he needs to earn his money. This is where he's going to earn his money. So I think he is feeling the pressure, so to speak, just in terms of needing to get this thing back on track, and he's obviously got ample opportunities to do so in October with 3 favorable games. So I won't call them easy games, but this is Purdue's chance to right the ship, and we all kind of figured that 0-3 was the most likely outcome for these last 3 games, and now this is Purdue's chance to get back on track and get back to 500 on Saturday.
Yeah, and Tom, it's not like the defense didn't do anything well, even though 43 points and 500 yards tells you a different story there. But unlike USC Notre Dame, I didn't feel like they were dominated up front. The Illini didn't, not that they had to, but the Illini didn't run the ball very well. And I wonder if some of the frustration is that, look, if they were just mediocre from a pass defense standpoint, they probably would have been right there. I mean, if you hold Illinois to 34, 35 points, and then you limit your mistakes, you had to feel like you had a puncher's chance to win that game, and the mistakes didn't allow for it.
Yeah, you're right. The run defense, the play up front, like you said, Derek, was appreciably better. And to your point, Illinois only averaged 2.9 yards per rush on 43 carries, just along a 25. That was one big play they had in the run game, and 8 TFLs. So yeah, you're right. Me and Dub were talking about D'Amico Kennedy. He was very active in TJ Lindsey's absence on Saturday. I think CJ Madden may have had his best game of the season, at least according to PFF. And Jamarian Harkless, or Chops Harkless, was Chops Harkless. So yeah, and then those 2 linebackers, right, guys?
Yeah.
We talk about them every week. People are probably tired of it, but Manny Powell and Charles Correa all over the field, combining for, I think it was 29 tackles. So yeah, they were good up front and stopping the run, but we addressed the elephant in the room, if you will, the breakdowns in the back end. And we spent a lot of time today, Derek, talking to the coordinators, Mike Shear in particular, talking about communication breakdown. And that was really, seems like it was at the heart of a lot of those issues in the back end. And I think not having their number 1 cornerback, Tony Grimes, was a factor back there as well. A veteran presence, a communicator. I know Tony's had his struggles back there, but not to have that veteran presence back there, I think, had to play some role in those communication breakdowns we saw.
Yeah, and you can allow for some of that. Like there was the play where the 2 defensive backs ran into each other, and sometimes, right, that's football, that's life. But going off sides on a 4th and 4, come on, I'm sitting up there in the stands, and you could hear the audible groan from the fans up there. Like they were, those type of things. I think there's such thing as like acceptable mistakes and unacceptable ones, and it just felt like, Dub, there were far too many unacceptable ones that we saw on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, and it was kind of uncharacteristic. Tom kind of touched on it a minute ago. And Darius Coffey was the guilty party on that 4th and 4. And you expect more out of a senior, a guy that they really trust, and a captain on the team. Now, obviously, you're going to make those mistakes. You're never going to play a perfect game, but Purdue can't afford to make those kinds of miscues. I think they've proven it both in this game and the USC game. I think this time was penalties, and I know like we've been talking about, the pass defense was obviously the Achilles heel and kind of the reason that they lost, in my opinion. But in the USC game, you lose a turnover battle. Illinois, you lose a turnover battle. You wipe those away, or you pick up a couple turnovers yourself. It's a completely different game, because I don't think that Purdue is outmatched in either one of those losses. I think you could put Notre Dame to the side. Notre Dame was just a better team that day. I think, and I hate to say that this Purdue team is close, but it's just a few plays here and there that they go the other way, and we might be talking about Purdue picking up a top 25 win on Saturday. So In Barry Odom after the game on Saturday, I believe he said it against USC too, is we're not good enough to make these kinds of mistakes, and he's right. So Purdue's going to have to get back to being disciplined like they were the first couple weeks of the year, and those wins against Ball State and Southern Illinois. They're going to have to do that again against Minnesota and moving forward.
There were some positives, Tom, as much as we're doom and glooming this, because, I'm just going off the tone of the head coach. I felt the same way that he did following that game on Saturday. Even though Purdue had to throw it 50 times because they were playing from behind for 90% of that game, I thought the running game was far more effective this week. Like you mentioned, 6 yards per carry. Devin Maccabee had his best game on the ground to this point, just from an effectiveness standpoint, even if he didn't have the workload that he had in the SIU game. And then you had Antonio Harris rip a home run ball as well. Is that a positive step forward for the offense in your eyes?
Yeah, it seems like often when we speak early each week, we're sort of lamenting the offensive line, right? The inability to get a consistent push, especially in the red zone. But I think you're right, Derek. I think the line did a better job this last week. I know the right side, if you look at the metrics, the Pro Football Focus metrics, the right side still had some struggles, but still, overall, you talked about the effectiveness of the ground game, and it was there, right? Josh Henson, the OC, told us today, Illinois came out trying to stop the pass, and the run was there, so Purdue took it. So that was a factor as well, I think. But still, credit Purdue, credit Harris, credit Maccabee, credit the offensive line, right? Barry Odom said it again today. If you can't run the ball, you probably have no chance to win the ball game. And he also said that, the offense probably did enough for them to win Saturday. I think most people would agree with that. But as you know, you got to play complementary football. Everybody's got to do their job, and we've lamented the defense's issues. And then the special teams guys, we saw a punt get fumbled and muffed too. Two turnovers for Purdue, no takeaways. Still just one takeaway this year, guys. Purdue's one of 6 teams in the country without an interception this year. Maybe, just maybe, they're going to get a game here where they get 4 or 5. So it's just been frustrating that old turnover margin game.
Yeah, and it's tough when, forget about talking about Minnesota, which we'll do here in a second, Northwestern and Rutgers. It's borderline impossible to beat a top 25 team with where Purdue is when you're not making any of the game-changing plays. In fact, only the game-changing plays are only happening to you. And that's just seems to be, and I know 2024 is in its own category, but, going back to last year, seemingly every single game-changing play has gone, Notre Dame accidentally fumbling the ball to Purdue is like the one example that we have seemingly from the past 2 years where you felt like, okay, maybe this is going to flip the game around. And of course they end up settling for a field goal. And then, the rest is history, what happened in the second half. But it's just, it's hard to exist like that. 1 turnover in 6 games, 6 in the last 17. It's almost inexplicable that, just accidentally Purdue doesn't have more forced turnovers than that. But, Dub, what did you think of, sticking with the offense, what did you think of Ryan Brown's performance overall? I wouldn't say that it was a great game for him necessarily, but I thought the decision-making was sharp, and I thought he was overall pretty solid, threw for 300 yards. We talked about interceptions being a little bit of a bugaboo. There were no turnovers on that end for him. And let's face it, from the receivers, there were a lot of drops out there, it felt like, too. He didn't get a ton of help.
Yeah, I was looking at Pro Football Focus, and they had him with 4 drops. And Josh Henson talked about it a little bit today when we talked to him. And he was talking about how there were just slight misses, whether it was the throw or the receiver or a mix up on the route, just something that kept Purdue from clicking a little bit more in the passing game. But as far as Ryan Brown goes, I think he's played well throughout this season, maybe taking out the USC game with the turnovers, but I think he took another step in the right direction. It's just more about him. It's being more accurate with the football at times. I think he's a little inconsistent in that regard. And, I think I lost count of how many balls I thought the Purdue receiver should have came down with. Maybe you could say, oh, that one was a little behind him, but plenty of balls that hit the receiver's hands that they just need to come down with. And, when Purdue drops back 50 times to throw it, you would expect a little bit more success. But all things considered, I thought Ryan Brown played well, and he hasn't been the issue in my opinion with the offense. I think The Purdue offense has played a lot better than I thought they would coming into the year. It hasn't felt like they've been able to eclipse that 30 point threshold though, and really break out and have an offensive explosion that they've needed the past 3 weeks in those 3 losses. So that's something that I think just comes with consistency. If they can become more consistent and finish more drives, I think they'll be able to put more points on the board. But I've been pretty pleased with how Ryan Brown's playing for only having 7 starts under his belt.
Last thing, Tom, this isn't a great Minnesota team by any means. They were outclassed by Ohio State. I'm not going to hold that against them. A lot of teams get outclassed by Ohio State, but that Cal loss has not aged very well the past couple of weeks either. But that said, a lot of people talk about the bar for Purdue. Like, what would you like Purdue to be realistically on a consistent basis? And I know a lot of people point to Iowa, but I kind of look at what PJ Fleck has done the last 5-6 years at Minnesota, where they're a 7-8 win team. They're 6-0 in bowl games. Isn't that crazy? They had that one team, I think it was in 19, that went, they were 10-1 or 11-1, and then they lost their last game to Wisconsin. So they were sort of nationally in the mix. They finished in the top 10. I kind of look at the Minnesota model as where I would like Purdue to be. And folks listening are probably like, what are you talking about there? I haven't thought about Minnesota football in years, right? But they're always, firmly a second tier or in the middle of the Big Ten. And considering the peaks and valleys that we've seen from Purdue, I don't know if that's the worst place to be, all things considered.
Yeah, it's a heck of a model, Derek. PJ Fleck is a heck of a coach. And I'll never forget back in 2017 when Purdue was looking for a coach, and Fleck was a guy that supposedly was on the radar here, and so many people just sort of mocked him, all the row the boat stuff, at Western Michigan. Well, it turns out he's a pretty good coach, and it's not a bunch of hokum. Tough, man. His teams are tough. They're big and they're tough and they're strong and they punch you in the nose. So you're right. That's a good model. I never thought I'd see the day where Purdue was chasing Minnesota, but here we are. They've dominated the series of late. I know Purdue's won the last 2, but a tough place to win up there at TCF Financial Bank Stadium. Purdue did win its last trip there, but they lost their first 6. I think they're 1-6. And you're right, Fleck has got a good quarterback in Drake Lindsey. I think the defense is probably a little better than the offense this year, at least early on. And you're right, there's no real signature win. This looks like maybe a retooling year for Fleck. But, again, it's going to be homecoming. It'll be a nice crowd up there. Could be a nice night. And they're big. Like I said, they're big and they're physical and they're tough. So Purdue better be ready. 10-point underdog, guys. So great opportunity, though. We've talked about that a lot. Minnesota, NU, and then Rutgers. Let's see what they do on the road in that environment up there in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, I think the fact that it was a quick turnaround at a MAC school gave people some Darrell Hazel 2.0 vibes, but clearly PJ Fleck has shown that he can coach at a very high level and on this level. And it's weird to think that this is season 9 for him at Minnesota. I still think of him as like a 32, 33-year-old wonderkid more than like a cagey vet in the Big Ten, but he's been around for almost a decade now. So should be a fun one from Minneapolis. We'll be back on Friday for another edition of Golden Black Radio. Get you set for the Golden Gophers. In the meantime, the absolute best Purdue football coverage is right here at goldenblack.com and on social media. So follow Tom and Dub for all the latest when it comes to the Boilers. Gents, we will see you on Friday. Have a great rest of your week.
Take care, fellas.
That's Tom and Dub, and that is our show. This edition of Golden Black Radio brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Academy Sports and Outdoors, as well as Purdue Federal Credit Union, the official credit card for Purdue fans. East End Grill and Ripple and Company, 2 distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street in Lafayette. The Whitaker Inn for unparalleled comfort and cuisine. Visit the Whitaker Inn. Sand Valley Resort with thoughtfully designed accommodations and nourishing dining. Sand Valley is the place to reconnect with yourself and those you love. Find your winter retreat at sandvalley.com. And the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research, which has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. And, of course, you can leave a positive review on whatever platform you're utilizing, whether that be YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever else. Be sure to enable alerts as well. So anytime we post new content, you can find it. And as always, old school wise, don't forget to subscribe if you're not already to goldandblack.com for all the best, not only football, but Boilermaker men's basketball coverage that you can get on the internet. New highlights, new videos, new content, articles, Dub, Tom, Brian, recruiting, Carm, Knucklehead Central, the whole deal at goldenblack.com and our plethora of platforms here at Golden Black. But until Friday, I'm Derek Schultz. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time right here on Golden Black Radio. As you all know by now, Golden Black Radio has also teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet. Offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that can expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.